So, old man rambling time. Wizards of the Coast, you're really starting to lose a lot of your fans that you've had for years. Not that I'm a huge fan these days. I mean, D&D is not my top RPG, not even close. There are others that I love way more. If it wasn't for the fact that Dungeons & Dragons was kind of the most popular and the default for a lot of people, I probably would never run it, because there are options out there I think produce better quality content. Wizards, you're not producing that content right now. Before people start going, oh, you're just hate it because they're changing things. I don't hate the changes that they've done in like the Dragonlance that was just released. I don't like it because, I mean, Dragonlance was the most lore heavy of the settings. A little bit of a weird choice. Just being like, well, we're going to take like the bare bone structures and just like redo the entire thing. It's like, oh, okay, well, what do you, whatever. I don't have to use it that way. At least give quality content. I don't even care what the content is anymore. Just give the content. I look at the settings like Spelljammer, the Dragonlance book, Strixhaven. They're mostly adventure, and then they give like a little bit of mechanics, and I mean little bit. Like Spelljammer was like basically a page or two of mechanics that were actually worth anything, and even then some of them were like, don't worry about it. Strixhaven, a book about like basically Harry Potter and D&D. What didn't they give? Any options for spellcasters, like a couple of spells, literally. And the blandness that is the Lunar Sorcerer in the new Dragonlance book, like, it has nothing to do with the phases of the moon, considering you get to choose every day what phase you're tied to. You could literally, if you can literally replace the words lunar phase with like flavor of chicken wing, and it wouldn't change anything about the class. Maybe your class, maybe it's kind of weak sauce. It doesn't have the flavor. You're just going for mechanics without the flavor, and the mechanics aren't great. I mean, there's one moon flavored spell in all of D&D, and guess what spell the subclass doesn't get? The stuff is weak sauce, and you keep saying, oh, well, we want to make sure we provide room for the GM to create their own stuff. Here's the thing. I don't want to buy a book for all of the blanks that you give me to fill in, okay? If I want to do that, I'll go make my own campaign setting. If I want a campaign setting, it's because I want you to fill in those blanks, and I can reference it. I can take the bits that I want. If I want to play with some of those toys, I'll play with some of those toys. If I don't want to play with some of those toys, I won't play with some of those toys. But if they're not there, why the hell am I buying your book? And I don't run pre-written adventures, so literally 80% of your books right now, of each book, is completely useless to me. Forcing to have to go through that adventure to get some of the settings material is just dumb. Really, if I were to buy each of these books right now, I'm paying, what, $50, $60 for basically 20 pages worth of content, if that, Spelljammer. Why would I do that? I've seen third-party materials on DM's Guild that are 1,000 times better. Spelljammer, for example. Someone came out with a Spelljammer thing before the Spelljammer book came out, and that's the one that my friend BHG is going to use in his Spelljammer campaign. We're not using your bullshit. We're using that one, because that guy did good. It's your property to do what you wish. My problem is the formatting of your books and the content you're putting in it is shit. Wizards, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know why you keep thinking everyone just wants an adventure with maybe a few pages of shit tacked onto it. Because that's basically what you've turned your company into now. You're just running adventures. And your rules are scattered for the rule books that you do release. You toss them all together, and there's 3 ways for you to run races now. Okay, cool. You're giving us options. That's nice. But, like, the rules feel half-assed. Because you've incorporated, but like, oh, we've reflavored some of the races to go with this new thing, and then we'll leave it up to you if you want to reflavor the other ones. Once again, putting the work on us. What am I paying you for if you keep wanting to put the work on us? Stop giving us blanks. I'm not paying you to give me blanks. This isn't going to impact my life too much, because once again, I don't run D&D campaigns. I've got a Pathfinder campaign going on right now because I have some players that want more like just tactical beat them in the face like styled gameplay. My main online like live stream game is Cypher because I have players that want to get into the RP and more complicated social interactions and narrative and everything. And it's not that you can't do that stuff in D&D. but it's, you know, you have supportive tools to do it in Cypher easier. So that's what we play. So I don't run a lot of D&D. This isn't going to affect me much. But the problem is, D&D is still sort of like this like flagship that unfortunately too many people see as the default. So if you fuck up, you're hurting the industry. You're hurting the image that people are getting of role-playing games. Thankfully, people are branching out. People are trying new and interesting things. We are seeing some popular groups delving into other systems to try other things out. And introducing the fact to the people that, hey, there are other systems out there. We should try it. And I really support that. If you're watching this video and you're like, oh, yeah, D&D is just not cutting it. Like, or even if you think D&D, the Wizards of the Coast books are cutting it these days, I think it's because you don't have a reference. You want to see a solid core rule book? Download the Aliens book. You want really interesting game mechanics? Go look at Cypher or Fate, both of which have a totally free SRD like set for all of the basic rules, completely free. You want to see like a really good example of a campaign setting book? Go see the Lost Omen books from Pathfinder. Those are beautifully written. Not all of them. There's a few of them that are like, I could take it or leave it. But some of them, the Grand Bazaar, the Mwangi Expanse, they're so good, and they have detailed setting information. They've got some rules mechanics in there that you can reference if you're in that specific setting, and things like the Grand Bazaar, which have like lists of shops and everything you can use elsewhere, is super useful even if you're not playing in that area. If you start to look at these other books, if you don't have this reference and you start to look at these other books, you're going to realize how shit Wizards is right now. You may not be realizing how crap the Wizard books are. And I'm sorry to be dunking on Wizards. I'm not dunking on anyone that plays Dungeons & Dragons. I myself am in Dungeons & Dragons campaigns. Although I don't run them anymore, I still play in some. Because I got some, you know, I've got a buddy running a couple. We got some live streams. Bad Hair Gaming's running some, like, Curse of Strahd and one he calls Mistwalkers. Both are in the Ravenloft campaign setting. Although he's pulled a lot from some of the older books as well. And the player redone version of Curse of Strahd, because it's better. So Wizards of the Coast, this has been my video that I'm going to try and edit down to say that your content is empty. You're giving us blanks to fill in, which I'm not paying you for blanks. You're giving us adventure content mixed with the settings. Please start separating those. If I want an adventure, I'll buy an adventure. Which I don't buy adventures. If I want a setting book, I want a setting book. I just want it to be a setting book. Stop mixing them. Stop mixing them so that you can cheap out and sprinkle little bits of shit in here. Do one or the other. You're just doing bad. There's a reason your profit shares are falling. There's a reason you're not doing nearly as well as you were. The stuff you're releasing is not good. If you want to make your books better, it's easy. Separate the content. Fill out a little more information to the setting materials, and stop making us fill in the blanks for you. I'm not paying you to give me prompts where I have to fill in the rest of it. You don't buy a novel from a bookstore where it's like the first sentence and then a bunch of blank pages. That's not what you want out of a book. You know what I miss? Oh, there we go. There's one. There's the other. You know what I miss? Shit like this. TSR was a terrible company. And the newly revived TSR, probably worse than ever. But box sets like that. Like, I'm not saying it has to be a box set. Just a nice book. That would be fine. But box sets like that gave brilliant amounts of information. And there's no adventure in those. It's just information. Those are boxes of just setting materials, areas in the setting, the people, the culture, what a campaign setting should be about. Not some watered down 15 to 20 pages, if that. Those box sets were complete campaign settings. That's what we want. We want reference materials. We don't want an interactive choose your own adventure bullshit with some reference in it, mixed in, that we have to like look up and find in a shitty manner. We just want reference materials, basically, is how it works. Start doing that. Start doing shit like that. It doesn't have to be a box set. Just make it a nice book. That's fine. Stop watering everything down, because that's what you're doing. And I don't know why. Because it's not like you're not giving us a page count. It's just what you're putting on those pages is shit. Now, there's good things about it. Like, I don't know, people have been complaining about the art for some reason. I didn't actually think the art was bad. Doesn't have the edginess of some of the old art that I like, but at the same time, it's really good art. That's not going to carry your book, because we're not... As much as I love the art in a book as inspiration, that's not why you buy a book. That's not why you buy these books. These books, your books could be completely devoid of art. And if the content in it stands on its own, people would still buy it. Your art just helps to improve it, emphasize it. When I do my reviews of RPGs, for example, when I do the book design, art's part of that, but the design section is mostly about the organization of the book and how it flows. Art doesn't even get its own category because it's not that important, all things considered. So Wizards, if you want to turn this around, your one D&D is going to have to be different. We only have about a year and a half until you want to launch this. One D&D is going to have to be a different beast. All these people that have just gotten into D&D in the past 5 to 10 years and have only known 5th edition and are going through their 1st edition change are going to see this and not be happy. They're going to start branching out. It is going to be the 90s all over again. You remember the 90s when people would look at you funny when you said you just played D&D? People would be like, but there's other better systems out there. Why are you just playing D&D? It's going to be that again if you don't fix things. So that's my rambling for now. I don't want to have too many old man, I hate this ramblings. And once again, I don't think I'm hating on the same things a lot of people are hating on. Yeah, they changed some things in Dragonlance. Whatever. I mean, things move with the time. It's still a weird move as far as I'm concerned. It's not the end of the world, and the system has changed. I mean, Sorcerer didn't exist back then, so they're trying to weave things in. Cool, whatever. My issue isn't with that. My issue is the quality of the content you're putting in the books. Stop. You got to separate them. You got to do better.